Hey folks, welcome back to Gunshots. This week we have something decidedly different from anything that I've tested before, and something that I'd sort of resisted testing because of a bit of a prejudice of mine, which is I don't think that 20 bores are particularly useful. So this week I have a 20 bore. This is a Caesar Guerini Tempio Jesp, or Yesp, Y-E-S-P-E. It's their the lightweight game version of the Tempio. It is 20 gauge, 30-inch barrels with a thin, narrow game rib, steel front bead. It's very, very simple. The fore end is a Schnabel type, and the stock is a thin sort of English sporting style with not much cast, and this Prince of Wales style grip. Now, I've never been a fan of the Prince of Wales because I always thought it looked a little odd. Aesthetically, I don't think that they're it's the prettiest thing in the world, but handling one in a thin, light, sort of fast gun like this, suddenly it begins to make sense. This grip very much lends itself to sort of rapid handling and good sort of acquisition of a hold on the gun. And to be honest, it's a pleasant surprise for me that I've actually liked it. The gun is very light, very fast. It is of course empty, and as you would expect with a 20 gauge at 6.5 pounds, it's no slouch in terms of getting it to move around. It mounts well, balances beautifully around about the hinge pin. It's actually quite nice to handle. In 20, obviously, it isn't really a clay tool, and my prejudice against these has always been because they've been sort of indicated that this is an ideal gun for a lady. Now, I think that perhaps my wife, who is sort of my frame of reference for this, doesn't like a huge amount of recoil, and in my opinion, a slightly heavier 12 gauge gun with a 20 gram cart is going to handle better than this gun, for instance, at 6.5 pounds with a 21 gram 20 gauge cart. I think that there's more felt recoil. And as such, as a clay tool, given that you have to be a bit more accurate with it, and they're quite light and very, very quick, I don't think they're terribly useful. However, I think on the basis of having walked around and shot around with one of them, suddenly they become interesting when you realise how light both the cartridges and the gun are when you're moving around. If you're carrying, like I do, sort of 125 cartridges, and you're carrying the gun around, suddenly you feel, actually, I can see this making sense, especially when if you're shooting game, doing a lot of walking, something that's really light but can hit like a 12, because obviously you can't put 28 gram cartridges through this, suddenly makes sense. I shot a mixture of 21 and 28 gram carts, and obviously the 21s didn't feel like a huge amount, but the 28s had a bit of a kick, but nothing unmanageable. The gun certainly handled quite nicely. You do definitely have to be a bit more accurate. Certainly I noticed with going away birds, where I would be perhaps a bit more cavalier with my shot placement with a 12, you had to be really on the ball with this, because your shot string is that much sort of different. This is a multi-choke gun, and it does come with a set of chokes, as you would expect with a Caesar. Everything about it is much like the Tempio. You get this this beautiful engraving that with the roses on it, which sort of points out maybe that it's a lady gun because it's the same engraving as you get on the Siren. But to be honest, everything else about it, in terms of the size, the length, it's 14 3/4 length of pull, points out that this is very much a gun for sort of every man. It's not sized for a lady. What didn't I like? So, if I'm honest, I didn't like the Schnabel forend one bit. It is really sharp out here towards the end, and I have, it is obviously empty as mentioned. I tend to grip the gun way out here at the end, and when shooting I found that this sharp edge just under the Schnabel very much sort of dug in. Wearing gloves helped, but I ended up holding the gun sort of more in the middle, which I guess is, I don't know, I don't like it. I prefer to have my hands farther out towards the end of the barrels and sort of give me more control. But other than that, though, the trigger's absolutely fine. As I said, I do like the shape of this this stock. The wood's quite nice. It's well screwed together, and it handles like, a Tempio. I did like it, and I think if you're going to shoot game, it's a definite possibility. Is it a clay tool? Absolutely not. I wouldn't recommend one of these, if I'm honest. Too light, too fast, and I don't know. Like I said, I prefer a 12. But for game, definitely an option. Definitely an option. Not much else to say about it. it's definitely been enjoyable and a bit of an education to shoot it. Not something I'm used to, having sort of, I only ever shoot 12s, and it's definitely proved that there's plenty to learn, and these other gauges do exist for a reason, and they're definitely useful for their in their own niche. All right, so thanks very much for tuning in again. Please, if you've enjoyed it, can you subscribe by clicking here, or look at the rest of the videos in the playlist by clicking here. All right, thanks very much, folks. See you next time.